Imagine a man born under a veil of secrets, whispering tales of two worlds, one of misty Irish hills, the other of smoky English streets. A boy who chased stories like fireflies, only to become one himself, lighting up screens with a gaze that could shatter hearts. This is the story of a soul who danced on the edge of glory and ruin, who bared his truth not in whispers, but in roars that echo still. What drove him to the heights? And what shadows nearly pulled him under? Hold on, because his confessions about the giants he shared the sands with will leave you breathless. From the start, life wrapped him in enigma. Picture a child entering the world on a summer day in 1932, maybe amid the wild winds of Ireland's west coast, or perhaps in the steady rain of northern England. He loved to tease which one, letting the mystery simmer like a good plot twist. Raised by a mother whose spirit burned bright and a father who bet on horses and kicked balls with equal fire, he soaked up lessons in laughter, survival, and spinning yarns that could bend the truth just enough to make it sing. That blend of cheeky charm and unyielding drive, it was the spark that would one day set stages ablaze. His road to the spotlight twisted like an old country lane. Fresh out of naval service, where he tuned radios amid the roar of engines, he toyed with safer paths journalism, maybe, or something steady. But words had him hooked, pulling him like a tide toward the theater's wild embrace. In the heart of London, he stepped into a world of velvet curtains and velvet egos, training at one of the finest schools for dreamers. There, from 52 to 54, he sharpened his edge alongside souls who'd soon shake the world, think sharp minds and sharper tongues, all chasing the same elusive fire. Even then, he stood out, a tower of a man with eyes like fractured ice and a voice that rolled like thunder over moors. On the boards of a venerable provincial stage, he unleashed storms grieving kings one night, fractured minds the next proving he could wear any skin and make it bleed real. That classical forge tempered him, a base of iron will that held firm when the silver screen called. He wasn't just playing parts. He was living them raw, demanding every beat pulse with honest ache. Then came the quake that reshaped everything. In 1962, a visionary director handed him the reins to a desert wanderer, a man of riddles and rage, torn between worlds. Overnight, he wasn't just an actor. He was a force, a comet streaking across skies. His take on that haunted hero, all fragile fire and fierce light, etched itself into eternity. Against endless dunes, those eyes of his pierced like arrows, turning a grand tale into something mythic. The world bowed. Whispers of gold statues followed, though the prize slipped away that first time. Still, it crowned him, one of the greats, before he'd even caught his breath. What followed was a whirlwind of bold leaps. 8 nods from the Academy over the years, each a testament to his refusal to play small. Yet the golden man eluded him, a cruel tease that only fueled his fire. He slipped into robes of power and crowns of folly, from medieval clashes to quiet classrooms, from thrones of madness to echoes of lost youth. Each time, he layered wit with wounds, turning kings into kin to us all. And oh, that late bloom in a tale of faded stars, he played a boozy legend with such tender bite. It cracked open the heart like dawn after storm dawn, but off the lights, his days burned just as fierce. A wit that sliced like a blade, nights that blurred into legend with kindred wild ones think poets and pints, chasing oblivion with the dawn. Tales of his revels grew wings, whispered in bars from Dublin to L.A. Yet through the haze, his anchor held, the stage, the script, the soul-deep call to create. "I'll rattle the dull dust of the everyday," he'd say with a grin, a vow etched in every wild step he took. Even as shadows crept illnesses that carved deep, surgeries that tested the bone, he pressed on, eyes alight with that defiant spark dot in 59. At the cusp of his rise, he tied his fate to a fierce Welsh flame, an actress whose own light could command rooms. They were a storm of talent meeting talent, him, all restless blaze. Her, a quiet thunder of grace. The inkblots loved it, this pair painting passion across headlines. Two girls came quick in the 60s rush daughters who grounded him amid the globe-trotting chaos. He poured love into them, fierce and full, even as scripts and spotlights stole him away for months on end. Fatherhood, he learned, was its own epic, tender, terrifying, true, yet cracks formed in the foundation. His fire, so magnetic, could scorch those closest the drink that loosened tongues but tightened nooses, moods that swung like pendulums, a hunger for more that left little room for still waters. She chronicled it later in quiet pages, the weight of fame's gale on their hearth, the way his tempests tested their bond. For 2 decades they weathered it, raising those girls through the roar. But by 79, the winds won. They parted, a quiet unraveling after years of beautiful fray. Freedom brought fresh chapters, unconventional as ever. He found warmth in a model's steady gaze, a partnership that bloomed softer, away from the glare. And in his 50s age, be damned, a son arrived, a late gift of giggles and grit. That boy, born in 83, reignited something pure, the simple joy of tiny hands and untold stories. The child grew in legend's long shadow, but carved his own path into the arts, echoing his father's rhythm, without chasing the same thunderous beat. Now, lean in, because here's where the heart quickens. That desert epic, the one that birthed his myth, it wasn't just sand and spectacle. It was a cauldron of clashing titans, egos forging gold from grit. For years, he guarded the tailies, letting art eclipse the anecdotes. But time softened the edges, and in quiet interviews, truth spilled like rare rain admiration, laced with wry edges, frustrations wrapped in fondness. What secrets did he unearth from those shared sun-scorched days? The kind that remind us, masterpieces aren't born gentle. He started with the elder statesman, a knight of measured grace, playing a desert prince voice like velvet over steel, every gesture a lesson in control. Intimidating? Like staring down a mountain, he'd chuckle. Their styles jarred at first, his wild pulse against that cool precision, but it honed him, sharpened the blade. A clash that birthed clarity, he said, a gift disguised as grind-dot, then the force of nature, a screen-shaking warlord with a laugh like cannon fire. He stormed in like he owned the horizon, our man recalled, eyes twinkling. Respect flowed deep for that raw command, the way he'd seize a moment and bend it to his will. But oh, the overload. Even the shadows ducked when he revved up. A nod to the push-pull that kept scenes electric. Never easy dot and the brother in the blaze, a rising star from distant sands. Eyes full of mischief, who became his desert lifeline. He pulled me from the brink, he'd say, voice warming. Young bucks lost in heat and haze. They bonded over smuggled spirits, midnight philosophies, escapades that blurred the line between folly and freedom. That spark? It lit the screen's soul, and their thread held through decades. A quiet anchor in life's later lulls. Not every memory glowed soft. The old guard, stiff-backed and sly, brought wisdom wrapped in barbs, a commander with jokes that deflated egos like pins to balloons. Mentorship in the madness of sudden spotlights, advice that stuck like burrs. But egos? They simmered, boiled over in the relentless baked-outs about the dream's survival, a director's unyielding whip-cracking demands that bordered on cruel. He sculpted with a hammer, he'd admit, respect edged with scars. Cursed him then, thanked him always, that forge made us eternal. Through it all, gratitude anchored him. No lone wolf carves a legend, he'd muse. You need storms beside you, and I had him each adding fire to the flame. Pensions? They fueled the fury audiences felt. Battles, they birthed beauty. And in those late truths, you hear it. Not just a film, but a family forged in fire, binding him forever to souls who'd mirrored his own wild heart. If this story touches your heart, please share it, let his light ripple out. One soul to another, but the arc didn't end in dunes. Decades rolled on, a tapestry of triumphs laced with thorns. In 2012, whispers turned to farewell. A shadow illness, long battled, rose again like an old foe. Surgery years back had bought time, but now it demanded pause. At 80, he stepped back not from fear, but from fierce love for what remained. Quiet days, stories untold. The world sighed, not in pity, but in all the life poured out without reserve, not just over a year later. On a winter's breath in 2013, he slipped away at 81. In a haven of care amid London's storied lanes. Tributes flooded like rivers, from peers who'd walked his path, from voices he'd stirred across seas. Remarkable, they said, that he'd outrun the demons of drink and disease to claim those full years. His going wasn't defeat. It was crescendo, a final bow to a crowd that adored him. In the hush that followed, what lingers? A legacy of unfiltered fire, a reminder that true art demands the whole self, scars and all. He stirred the sands, alright, rattled our souls, left us chasing that elusive spark. If his journey moves you, hit that like, subscribe for more tales that cut deep, and share this with someone who needs a reminder. Live loud, love fierce, speak your truth. Because in the end, that's the only roar that echoes forever.